ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Wish you all a very happy Navaratri, and I hope you had wonderful puja, particularly today. With the Ayush Puja, there's a lot of activities associated with that. Particularly in Prashanti, we had a lot of activities since morning this time. It's a wonderful thing to see that we remember the Puranas, various gods and goddesses, and deeds, and we bring that into our day to day life. And apart from that, we see that we celebrate every event in such a beautiful way. So today there was so much of festivity in Prashanti. People were so much involved in these activities. Amidst all these things, we finished in the morning after the lunch, at the free time. So that was the time I could catch up with the Satsang, which last week we had cancelled, and this week we could definitely have it. So that is what I thought. Therefore, at least for about 1 hour, we can continue with the satsang on Prasnopanishad. We have come to the fifth Prashna, and that's what is Satyakama. He has asked the question, and this fifth Prashna is about Omkara Dhyana. It's a very, very important Prashna, important question, important detail about Omkara. It's not just only about the Omkara when we say it is actually Aum. That is it. But then it's in Sanskrit Prayoga, this is called as Omkara. That it's originally supposed to be Om, and we add it as a noun for that. We say Omkara Prayoga or Omkara Sadhana, Omkara Dhyana. These are all the things because Omkara. Or Omkara chanting, that's what is a chanting. Or we should actually say, strictly speaking, it is Om chanting. And that is the idea. So because that we use this dhyana, therefore we call it as Omkara Dhyana. But what is more important thing is A, U, and Often people uh, keep this as three things A, U, Ma. It's not Ma, it is because when we say Ma, then it's again plus A. It becomes a, it's not any letter, it is already, it's not any akshara, but it is already the two letters combination and A. Therefore, what we need to really see is that So when we say Om Sadhana, it is Aum. So first letter is A, second one is U, or first sound is A, second sound is U, and third sound is and then fourth is the silence. So this is how basically that Omkara Chatuspaditavyam, that is what is given in the Mandukya Upanishad. And here in Prashnopanishad, he uses this Mandukya Upanishad concept in trying to understand, go deep into the ideas of Om. And with that, he will try to see that how prana is linked to it, the prana practice is connected with that. This is what we are going to see. Ultimately, the whole idea is that we know that as in the Prashnopanishad, the beginning itself it says that the pranam cha raim cha, when he said that prana itself is adityo havai pranaha. That means sun himself is prana. And aditya tejo mayaha. It is nothing but teja, And that Tejas itself is supposed to be the Om, it is supposed to be the Prana. Now, there is another very important aspect is that Prana is recognized by Spandana. So, that means to say it's a to and fro motion. Spandana means movement from one to the other. The soul creation, when you can see that it is in the form of Spandana, it is moving from one to the other. And you can see that in several ways that this two way it is divided, that is day and night. So what moves is from day to night, night to day to night. So this is right. Similarly, that all the seasons move. So everything is continuously moving in one way or the other, one way or the other. So this is something which movement is what is called as spandana. And most subtle aspect of the spandana itself is the sound. Therefore, that mm, when we say that the mind active, it is nothing but the sound way that the mind is active. There are two aspects of mind. One is the pictorial aspect, and the other is the verbal aspect. The pictorial aspect is the sound. I use the pictures that we think in terms of pictures, or the mind works in terms of pictures. The second thing is the sound aspect of it, the shabda aspect of it, shabdika, which means basically it is in the form of a sound or a dialogue. So these are the two ways that the mind functions. So this is what we have seen earlier also. Out of these two things, the sound aspect is much more important and much more engaging us than the pictorial aspect of it. Because basically that in order to convey the pictures to the world outside, or we need to relate ourselves with the world outside, it's not just only the picture that way that we relate ourselves with, but the picture has to have a name or has to have a connection. So therefore, basically, this rupa is also connected in the terms of nama. If there is no name for that, the rupa itself does not help us to communicate from one to the other and all that. We need to have that rupa. That is why the nama and rupa, these are the two things that are there, and they cannot be separated. They cannot go one away from one from the other. So therefore, basically, an object and its name are absolutely connected. Or in other words, the name, our dheya, our purpose is to convey about an object. My dheya is to tell you about a apple fruit. But then what is the way that I can tell about the apple fruit? By giving a name to it. So therefore, I gave a name to it, or we all collectively gave a name to it. That's what we gave is supposed to be dana. Dhyaya is something what I mean, whereas dhyana, uh, dana is what we give. Therefore, this is what is called as abhidana is the name, and abhidheya is the object. Now the object can be not only the solid object that is there, but even an activity can be object. Karma can also be an object. An activity that goes on can be object. Many times what happens is that subtler and subtler that we go, it's only the activity that is there, but it is not the object per se. Solid object per se is there, but it's a relationship. The relationship is connected with that. So therefore, basically, that our sound not only conveys the object, but also conveys the relationship. Also, it conveys, and all the other attributes connected with that object is also conveyed with the help of abhidana. So the sound, the name is what we given, or the words that we give is what communicates that. So therefore we use this abhidana, that means say words, in language, whatever that we are familiar with, and then we use the language to communicate, to convey to the people others. So this is how we connect ourselves with the world outside. So even that sound is also nothing but spandana, vibration. Therefore, this spandana in the form of abhidana, the name, is connected with the prana. So therefore, prana is also spandana, and then abhidana, that means the name is also spandana. So ultimately, whatever that object may be there, But then relationship may be there, but subtler and subtler that we go, what is more important thing is that it is a spandana that by which that you connect with the world outside. So therefore, essentially, that when all these things are to see that how we can go to the Brahman, and in order to go to the Brahman, or our own nature, that's what is supposed to be the Jivatma. And before we go to Jivatma, what is that which arrests us, prevents us from going there? And that is supposed to be the idea of the world outside. Then the vasanas and samskaras, all these things are holding us. So at various levels that they hold us, so all these various levels that they hold us in the form of various aspects of prana, prana, pana, vyana, udana, samana. That's what we have seen in the earlier shlokas, earlier sutras. In fact, in the earlier sutras, first, second, third prashna, the questions were only about the manifest world outside, how the manifestation takes place. And the first one is manifestation about the cosmic world, how the manifestation takes place from the prana, how these things have emerged, have created. And then the fourth prashna is something where it starts coming to that outside and inside of you. These two are interconnected. You are not separate from the nature outside. So there is no way that you can separate yourself from the nature. You need to imagine that you are part of this nature. And that is very, very important, so that the nature means that we are. That can be two ways that you can think of, that you are the nature. As an example, as a experience that we could see, that when you are on the ground, you see that there are distinct details of you, your house, your village, your street, all those things are separate and everything. But the moment that you rise up into the sky, once you get up onto the skyscraper, when you go to the fifth floor, 10th floor, 15th floor, 20th floor, then you can see that the people there become tinier and tinier and tinier, vehicles become tinier, and they start merging. The same thing, if you go by plane, you can see that the whole city is merging into one mass. Whatever that separation that you see, because we see from the close proximity, we see the separation, but once we go up, we see that it's one and the same thing. It's all the same. Like the way we see that as the group of ants that are there moving, the same way group of people or group of vehicles are moving. So this is what we see. In fact, recently somebody gave this idea. Once you go to the moon, or once you go to the probably the beyond the clouds and all that at that antariksha level, there's one thing that you could clearly see is the Kumbh Mela. That means to say where all the people gathered, there are lakhs of people gathered in front of in front of the river, and then they take a bath and then they are moving around and all that. It says that that is one group, as a group of people that they getting together, and then you can see them. Kumbh Mela, that's why is a very interesting incident. Say that where millions of people joined together. So on the other day, somebody was explaining about even the garbha that has taken place, the amount of number of people are dancing there in the garbha on the occasion of Navaratri, where all these foreign dignitaries were ambassadors were invited. One ambassador was saying very beautifully. He said that whatever that I see that people dancing here with joy and all those things, actually when I look at that, the number of people who are there is the population in my country. It's like country here. So look at the beautiful idea that it is given, that it all becomes one. So that means to say, if you look at the nature, then you are also part of that nature. And that you can realize only when you see that how that from you remove up in that way. And that way, when you further remove up, you can see that all these stars and all that, planets and all that, merge together into star, and the stars merge together into galaxy. So that means to say it's all one mass, and from which everything has become. So therefore, that in what way that you can feel that you are separate from the other, you are not different from the other, you are not different from the nature. So this is one way of expression of that. The second way of expression to show that you are the same, that's what Vedanta often uses that. Many times that it is used, that you see that It's like the way the subtler and subtler that we go, that it's all become one. Like the way that there are different lights in this room, there are 10, 15, 20 different bulbs are there, and each bulb is throwing light in this room. When you see that all the light that is there, when the bulbs are there, source is there different. But then the moment when you come to the light, then light is one and the same thing. You cannot separate this light is from that, this is from that. You cannot separate that out. The same way, when you come to at the gross level that they are separate, at the bulb level that they are separate, but the subtler and subtler that we go, at the question of jyoti, at the question of illumination that you see, it's all one and the same thing. So therefore, basically, that the perception, the moment is the one which makes that looking different things, but otherwise it's one and the same thing. This is one aspect of it. Second aspect is that you are part of the nature. There is no way that you are different from the nature, because the simple thing is you take the breath and then you leave the breath, and that breath goes into the world outside, and then somebody else breathes, and then his breath, it will come to you. So therefore you breathe. So like that, you see that at the wind level itself, at the breath level itself, that you're all playing with the same breath. Similarly about the water, similarly about the sunlight, we all take the same sunlight. Now I am here at this place, and the next time that I move ahead, somebody else come to this place. But then the same light, same sun, and everything we are taking it. So therefore, when you look at it, you are made out of these panchabhutas, and everybody is made out of the same Panchabhuta. So therefore, in that sense, we are all one and the same thing. Only thing is the difference is at the upadhi level, at the manifested level. But other than that, the otherwise we are all the same. At the fundamental level, we are all the same. At upadhi level, this is what is called as upadhi. I become myself, and this is what is an upadhi. I hold on to this upadhi. And further, this upadhi is also like that. Like, for example, a man, he holds an upadhi of a husband when he's with his wife. The same person holds the upadhi of a son when he's with his father. So, the son is something who is coming and going. The father is something which is coming and going. Husband is something coming and going. But then what is there in the background? It's one and the same thing, and that's what is man. Man will not come and go. It's only the upadhis come and go. So the world is also like the way that upadhi, it comes and goes. And you are somebody behind it as man. But then we go further deep into that, this man also comes from the same consciousness. So therefore that the consciousness we are all the same, but only thing is we became individual. These are all the ways the various explanations are given. But of all these explanations, what is the probably the way that I'm convinced about explanation is this one, that at consciousness level it has the total freedom. It can become any upadhi. It can become any upadhi. It can also withdraw from that upadhi very easily. And upadhi for the sake of functioning, for the sake of functioning. And upadhi means it created a boundary for itself. Like the way sky does not have a boundary, but your window has a boundary. But when you look through the window, that you see that the sky is also within that frame. Sky itself is not within that frame, but then the frame, your illusion, is the one which makes that sky to be in that frame. Same way that your illusion is the way that you see that Upati Dharma is his own. Like the way that gold itself does not have any shape, but then various ornaments are the way that the gold takes shape. But then again, that gold cannot be seen otherwise, other than in some shape or the other. So it has to take a shape so that it can interact with the world outside. The same way that we have the Upadhi Dharma, and the Supadhi is the way that we interact with the world. And we should realize that the Supadhi is something which is important. We need to work with that. And that is how we really, and it's only our choice that we are taken this Upadhi, nobody else's choice. And the consciousness behind it, and I have taken this Upadhi. But the moment I give up this Upadhi, I become the consciousness myself. So this is what is the way that the consciousness is a total freedom. And the way that I understand is that when the moment we call it as a freedom, anything is a freedom. The freedom is that which can give up its freedom also. It is capable of giving up its freedom. That's why it is called as freedom. A freedom which cannot give up its freedom is no more a freedom, because that there is no other alteration that is possible. It's already fixated. So Brahman is something which is not fixated. Therefore, Brahman itself has become the manifest world. So we have, that's why two worlds. One is unmanifest Brahman and the manifest Brahman. Both these things are there. Now that is how basically this whole creation, and prior to the creation, whatever the Brahman that is there. So both these things are the part of this whole uh, whatever that is there, whatever that exists is that. Now, one thing which can represent these two things, and one representation, we have seen another thing, that is anything manifested can be in the form of name. That's what we call it as the any upadhi is given with the name abhidana. So that means to say a name is given to it, and but then abhidheya, the idea that for an object that we have given. But Brahman itself is not any name, because any form is not there. A very simple example like the ornament and the gold. So one that can represent the manifested and taking to the unmanifest. This is what is the advantage that we have with the Om. Idea of Om is that Om, the moment that you finish Makara, then what leads you to is the silence. The singing of stops, and that merges into silence. And that silence is the one which is not unmanifest, or the Brahman, which is does not have any form. So therefore, Om representative in that way, Om is the most wonderful representative of what is called as the combination of manifest and unmanifest together in one go, in one word, or in one syllable, that we can mention that. It is Brahma Samipataya. That's what Shastri always used to quote from Shankara. Says that whatever that is supposed to be Brahman, manifest, unmanifest, the whole thing, and Samipataya, that means to say, just outside of it is supposed to be this whole. So now what happens is that this is basically the way that manifest and unmanifest is all this is there, and then represented by Om. But actually, what has to happen is that here it's only theoretical to say that you are the consciousness and the manifest world is there, and then you have unmanifest reality that is there behind it. So, therefore, the moment that if you see unmanifest reality, that means it must be beyond all these senses. When the senses are not there, that is there, because manifest world is something which you perceive through the senses. My eyes can see, my ears can hear. So all this manifest world is that within my perception. And beyond the perception that exists, and the simple idea for that could be that in unmanifest way something exists in the seed. You see a seed which has got a huge tree, but you mean to say a small little seed, how the whole tree can be embedded inside that? It can be embedded only in the form of intelligence, or in the form of unmanifest way, because basically that manifest tree is so big and the seed is so small. And not only that, the manifest tree has millions of seeds. So that means to say this one seed has a capacity to create millions of seeds. And those each seed of that, season after season after season, they create seeds. You see that in every season that you have a million mangoes on a particular tree, you just cumulatively you see that for 100 years that mango tree is there, how many seeds were created? All that seeds again have mangoes, trees. And each mango tree again has a million tree seeds like that. So, if one intelligence that is there, or the unmanifest form, intelligence means unmanifest form that is there inside the seed, it is so much that is there if it has to manifest. Earth is not sufficient. One seed will say that now I have enveloped the whole earth. Now where else you show me some other place? Now where to go? So therefore, that itself is an infinite thing that is there at the unmanifest level. So what we see, the manifest is a small, very iota kind of a thing compared to the unmanifest that's there behind it. So therefore, that Aum is supposed to be limited, and whereas that whatever that is unmanifest is something which is extraordinary, and that's what is us. That's what exactly is the consciousness. The consciousness is at that level. We are that, and there also that it is simple like this that as an example, Ghatakasha, it gives in the form of an Akasha, the space where the space that is there inside the pot and the space outside is one and the same thing, separated by the wall of the pot. Other than that, the space is the same. Like the way that the air within us is the same as the way air outside, separated by our respiratory system. So therefore, that it is one and the same thing either inside or outside. The same way that a Jivatma is nothing but the same Paramatma or the unmanifest vast consciousness that is there. We are that. There is no difference. Only thing is that we are like in the pot, and that's there. Consciousness is in the openness, though it is one and the same thing. So what happens is the moment that this pot drops off, the space merges with the space that is there outside. So therefore, that you and the nature outside, you are not separate. Please understand that. The creation outside, the Brahman that is there, this created Brahman outside is what is called as the Karya Brahma, and unmanifest, uncreated world that is called as Param Brahma. So Karya Brahma and also the Jivatma, it's all one and the same thing. So that's what he is trying us to take us to that in the fourth Prashna. It comes to the fifth Prashna now, the fifth, where the uh, Satyakama is asked this. Probably even before the Satyakama asked this question, that in the Parampara, right from the beginning, this concept of Om must have been there. This Prashnopanishad is only explaining about this concept of Om. This explanation Prashnopanishad gives us in the fifth shloka, fifth sutra, fifth prashna, is something which is there in the vast um, history of this particular culture itself. So you can just imagine how old is the concept of Om and how deep is the concept of Om in this particular culture. And this particular sutra will give us this question, will give us a very deep, a few fresh insight of this Om, which normally we do not discuss because maximum people discusses Om is nothing but Brahman. Therefore, that you do meditate on Om. And that's what a dhyana we say is the meditation on Om. That's what we say about dhyana. But here he says abhidhyana. He comes with this abhidhyana. So when you do the abhidhyana, in order to go to this particular prashna, it is better to seek the help of Shankaracharya because Shankaracharya gives a very beautiful way, very nice way in Sanskrit, the whole explanation. Let me try to give you as much as possible what I can understand from the Sanskrit. I will try to pass it on this particular information to you. अथहीनं क्लैभ्यः सत्यकामः पप्रच्छ सयो हवै तद्भगवन् मनुष्येषु प्राणानाम् अन्तम् ओङ्कारम् अभिध्यायीतम् कथमं वावसतेन लोकान् jayati iti. So here he brings about abhidhyana. So Satyakama now asks Prapracha Sayohavai Tad Bhagavan. Oh Bhagavan, he says about the teacher Pippalada. This is Manushyesu, out of the people, within the people, that prananam antam omkaraha abhidhyayita. When the life goes away, as long as life is there, and whoever does the abhidhyana of omkara, and katham bhavate tena lokam jayatiti. What are the words that he crosses? Loka is alokyati iti lokaha. That means whatever type of perception that he passes through. That means to say there is one normal perception of the world that we have, And similar to this normal perception of the world, there are so many other perceptions that we have which are not normal, but which are existing, accepted to be existing, because what happens is that it may not be, it is normal to everybody, but it is not common. The difference is this, that is, there is one loka, that is one perception, one world. World means actually the perception. One world which is common perception. That means that common to everybody, not only common to people, but common to the other creatures also in the creation. That's why it is called as, because it is common to everybody, it is called as Vaishvanara. So that means to say that the world is also something which is common, and the perception is also common. So therefore, basically, it's common to everybody. And this is what is Vaishvanara world that we perceive. But apart from that, there are so many other worlds that are there we perceive, other experiences that we have perceived, and those experiences we cannot deny it. Just because that I may not see the way that the others see it, it does not mean that it does not exist. It also exists. We cannot deny it. Why? Like for example, simple thing is about the dream. The dream, I see it, but I can. There is no way that I can deny this dream, because basically we say a dream is something. There is no proof for that. Nobody is there because the others have not seen. But whereas this world, we can always find proof. I see something and the other also sees, therefore that there is proof. That's why this is supposed to be common world, common perception. So it's available for common perception. So we say that I've seen it, you have seen it, somebody else also has seen it. But the dream that you only have seen. But then there, the argument that he tries to give us is that there were also people in my dream, and they were also perceiving that dream, things in the dream, and they were also reacting to the same way that I was reacting. Like for example, that I see that I'm in a traffic in my dream, the traffic, that there were so many people who were there, and suddenly we see that some a roguish vehicle was coming on the way, and then it was just plowing everybody on the street, and then everybody ran helter skelter, like the way that I was running away from my life. I could see that everybody else there was also like running away from this world. So that means to say, for them who were there in the dream, it was real. Only I was running away, they were not running away. That is not happening. They were also running away. So therefore, basically, that those people who were there in my dream, they were also experiencing the same way as much as myself in the dream that I'm experiencing. So therefore, it belongs to my dream personality, my dream being who is experiencing that. Yes, in the wakeful state, I do not experience that again. And not only that, every day I have a different dream. Every moment I have a different dream. So that means, say that basically, I cannot deny that it is not existing, but for my dream personality, that is as real as this world outside. Now, this also is something that others experience or common experience, but common experience at this moment, but next moment it may not be there. After some time, people may not see it. What happened about 10 years ago that nobody sees now, it doesn't exist anymore. So that means to say, this also actually is not permanent. It's common, but maybe it is not permanent. Common to this world, but then dream world is also common to the dream being. And this may be permanent for some time, the same way that's also permanent for some time. So in one sense, that this is also dream as much as that is dream, or this all that's also as much real as this one. And here also that I pursue, I get some things, I satisfy something. There also I pursue, I get something, I satisfy myself with that. So therefore, that these two experiences, you can see that right in front of us we have two lokas. One loka, that means to say one world, is the manifest real world outside, and there is something like a world that is there in the dream world that we see. It's also equally real or equally unreal as the real world outside, as the world outside. So they also have fear, they also have hunger. There's a very beautiful dream that comes in the Janaka's life. Janaka dreamt that he lost all his kingdom and all that. He became a beggar, and he was so hungry, didn't have food. Finally, and he was in rags and all those things. Finally, he came across somebody gave him a morsel of food in one, and when he saw that food, he held it in his hand. It was like heaven for him. He was so exalted with that food that he had. So now he will sit someplace and then eat, and he finds a nice place to sit down. And then he was about to eat at that time. It seems some, I don't know, the story gist is this way. An eagle comes and picks up that food and goes away. He doesn't have that food also. He laments at that level. Said, "What happened to you, Janaka? You had such a big kingdom, and all that is gone." So it is like that. And there also the hunger is there. He was really looking for the food. So therefore, that all these things are real in that dream world. So this is one world. Like that, we may have several worlds which are there, and these worlds are nothing but made out of the light that is there, reflecting on the consciousness that is there. So therefore, of course, later on we come to that idea that's supposed to be Soma world. Soma is supposed to be moon, like the way moon reflects the sunlight, and therefore the prana is reflected on those ways, and then manifestation takes place in that. And because that it is so extraordinary, you are creating that, therefore it is also connected with the Adidaiva. So, um, the very deep thinking that has taken place in Prasnopanishad to reach that state. Anyway, we'll look into that as we go ahead. We'll try to find out. He says that how, you see, that's why he says that in Bhashya, Shankaracharya says, or Abhijayit katamam bhavasaten lokam jayatiti. What are the lokas that he conquers? Means he reaches, he understands all that. The Bhashya, Shankaracharya Bhashyakara says, Sayah kaschit yavai bhagavan manusheshu manusyanam arthe tat adbhutamiva pranayantaram marananantaram yavad jivam ityetat. Omkaram abhidhyayita abhimukhena chintayet. Now, so the prana, the way that we understand this prana, whatever that happens in this world during this until that you die, and mm, he has extraordinary wonderful experiences that he has, and that's why he says that adbhutamiva prananantaram prayanantaram marananantaram adbhutamiva. That means there's an extraordinary wonderful experience here. See, that is something which, why he says extraordinary experience. Mm, there is one story by Khalil Gibran. It was very nice. Is that what is that which makes man live in this world? What is that by which that he holds on to this world? He lives in this world, and he goes to the water, river asks, "Do you know what it is?" That the river says, "Don't know." And the earth says, "I don't know." Flowers say, "We don't know." So like that, I mean, there's a beautiful poetic way of putting all those things. And finally, I didn't get an answer anywhere. Nobody really gives me the true answer that I convinced. Then I asked the sky, what is that which makes the man to hold on to this life? He says that it is hope. It's a very beautiful thing. Hope is like a sky. In sky, like anything can be there, so hope also can anything be there. It's the hope which makes you to live and which identifies with this life. So this, that means to say, it does not belong to the life, it is beyond the life. Therefore, that we have the hope. If it is there in the life, then there is no question of hoping. Like, for example, if I get everyday good food, I'm eating food and I sit for the lunch and then food comes and all that. There's no question of hope in that. See, there's no question of hope in that. Similarly, various other activities, there's no question of hope. I go to the office, I work, I get the salary. There's no question of hope in that. But what is that hope? Hope is that which is beyond this world that we think of. Hope to become all right. Hope to gain the health. Everybody is dying around me, but I hope that I live. I outlive all these people. In fact, that you can see that even a cancer patient who is dying, next next bed cancer patient is dying, you're also there, but you hope to live. Maybe some miracle takes place that you hope to live. So this is something which is there. This is what is ascharya, and that's what is the question. He says that adbhutamiva prayananantaram marananantaram. This is what he says. Even the Yaksha Prashna, there's a question that Yaksha asks Vishesha. What is that makes man to live? He says it is the hope which makes man to live, continue to live. That is something which is extraordinary. Where does it come from? It comes from that unmanifest level. It connects you from the manifest to unmanifest. So therefore, that there is something which is we are constantly connected with the manifest to unmanifest. So यावज्जीवितम् इत्येतत् ओंकारम् अभिध्यायीत अभिमुखेन चिन्तयेत्. Abhidhyayita is abhimukhena chintayet. Abhidhyana. Now this is normally what we hear about dhyana, but he calls it as abhidhyana. Abhidhyana is this way, he gives the details of that. Abhidhyana means basically that um, various other pratyas do not come in the way. Pratyas means objects do not come in the object means ideas do not come in the way. We follow what is called as Satya, Brahmacharya, Ahimsa, Aparigraha, Tyaga, Sannyasa. These are all the Yama Niyamas that we have seen in the Yoga Sutras. And this has always been in the culture. Tyaga, Sannyasa, Shaucha, Santosha, Amanitvam, and all these things, Yama Niyamas. When we have that, then under their anugraha, that means under their blessings, that doing the Omkara Dhyana, that's important. That's why Patanjali also, when he has given Ashtanga Yoga, he has included Yama Niyama. Yajnavalkya gives Yama Niyama, so everywhere in this culture that is there. Not only that, before even these students have come to Pippalada, that Pippalada sends them 1 year Samvatsaram Samvatsataha. Now, who are the people who have come? They are people who are Brahmanishtaha Brahmaparaha. And they wanted only Brahman. So that means to say they all followed all these principles that are supposed to be laid down in the Yama Niyama. So therefore, I was telling right from the first shloka itself, first question itself, I was saying that assume that these students are not like the ordinary common people in the world outside, because they live in the world just as the way that the world in front of them, that they live with that. They don't have anything more than that. Or whatever that they do is a very simple belief, blind belief that is there. You do this, that you will get that. You do this will happen. There are certain shortcuts that are given in the world, and then that is what they hold on to. Nothing beyond that. And in spite of the fact they'll be doing all those things, then you see that they're not really committed to this, what they are doing. That becomes more like mechanical. But then, whereas these students who have already come, particularly Satyakama and all these other disciples, Sukesha, etc., Bharadwaja, they're all the people who are already practiced all those things. Now they have Yama Niyamas, all those things that are already soaked into that. Now, these are the people who are going ahead for further journey. That's why these questions have come. So, these questions do not come if somebody is not in that direction. Somebody is happy with the world outside, whatever that he is doing. And They don't even involve into anything like helping anybody or anything like that. They'll just involve. I'm following the rules and regulations, what is there, the society gives us. So I'm okay, fine, kind of a thing. Large population is that way. They're just like that. There is some another micro population is there who don't even follow that. They violate all those rules to see that they become selfish, whatever that is for their own advantage or value idea that they have in their mind, that they follow that. But then there are some people who follow all the rules and regulations in the world outside. That's fine, they live. They live for the values, that human values that are given, and then they either that they have the value for that, or maybe that they're afraid of if they don't follow that, they'll be punished. So they don't want to be punished, so that's why they'll follow that. That's what is a large population, very large population. But these are the people who have done abhidhyana. That means to say they have already followed these things, yama, niyamas, and all those things that they follow. And what is this particularly here? He gives idea of aparigraha. Aparigraha is the idea that they say that somehow they have come to the idea that there is nothing in this world which is mine, doesn't belong to me. And this idea they have clearly got. It may be about the object, it may be about the ideas, it may be about various other things that are there. It is mine, it is me and mine. When this is gone, that's what is aparigraha. It's a very important sutra in this whole yama niyama that is there. So once it happens that this aparigraha takes place, then naturally tyaga, sannyasa, shaucha, santosha, amanitvam, all these things will follow them. They set into us. You just try to practice that there is nothing which belongs to me. Where is the question of then praising myself about that? Amanitvam, it does not happen. Same way, manitvam does not happen. That's what's up. And I'm blissful all the time, santosha. So all these things will happen with yamaniyama. And with that, the anugraha, that means to say, the grace that happens to us is this way that in me, very naturally, this idea of santosha, idea of freedom from the ego, idea of cleanliness or shaucha, and tyaga, all these things will naturally grow in you. And this is what is the grace of all these things that are there. So, when once Yavajjiva Vratadharanaha Katamam Bhava Anekehi Jnana Karma Abhi Chetavya Lokan Tishtati Teshu Tena Omkara Abhidhyanena Katamam Saha Lokam Jayati. So, such a person who has now um, come out of this idea of me and mine and all those things, and then he has regularly followed these things and he reached that state. And there's another very important aspect is that santosha. He says that that means a spiritual person, a person who is taken to Vedanta, is not a person who is serious. It's as if there is something like that he has lost everything. He should be somebody who is joyful, celebrating the life that is there. And that way he says that then such a person he'll come across so many different lokaha. So and in what way this Omkara takes us to those levels. Tasya say, now let's come to the Upanishad. Tasmai sahovachaha ye tadvai satyakamaha param cha aparam cha brahma yadorumkaraha tasmad vidvanena te vidvate netainaiva yet nenai kataramanyeti. So, Satyakamani, now all these things, Parabrahma, Aparbrahma, whatever that is there, Omkara is the one when you try to understand that, when you live in that, Ayatanam, that's what he says, uh, uh, Brahma yat Omkara, Tasmad Vidvanena, Ayatanaina, one who is there, Kataram Anveti. Now, therefore, that he gets into these things. And Let's go to what Shankaracharya tries to give us. So, ato param hi brahma shabdad upalakshanan narham sarvadharma vishesha varjitam ato na shakyam atindriya gocharatvat kevalena manasa avagahitam omkare tu vishnadi प्रतिमान सादीनि भक्तावेशत ब्रह्मभावे ध्यायीनां तते प्रसीदते च परं च ब्रह्म यदोंकारः इत्युपचार्येति तस्मादेवं विद्वाने एतेन आयतनेन आत्मप्राप्ति साधनेन ओंकार अभिज्ञानेन एकतरं परम aparam brahma anveti anuchyati. So now let us see what is the see means here. The moment that Atindriya gocharatvat. See, first thing is that the outside objects identification is given up. Yeah, we cross that, and this is what is our which is called as what I called as a upadhi dharma. You come out of the upadhi dharma. I don't identify with the upadhi dharma. Come out of it, and this is what even the Patanjali side also when he says that vritti nirodha yoga tata drashtaswarupe avasthanam. And he says that vritti is an upadhi dharma. Vritti is something what we are doing in the world outside. And the moment you come out of it, you just free yourself from that. So this upadhi, whatever that upadhi that we have taken on us, that you come out of it, upadhi dharma that you say, then when we come out of it, and this is what is called as Vishesha. You see, like for example, sun is a Vishesha, man is a Vishesha. Father is a Vishesha. Man is behind the father, man is a Vishesha. Like the way that ornament is supposed to be Vishesha, whereas the gold is a Vishesha. So that is the idea when you take an analogy of that particular thing. When you look into yourself also that you are not with all these Visheshanas outside. You are without all these upadhis outside. Or you leave them behind. Recognize this in the first place that they are only just Visheshana Matra, they are only the Upadhi Matra, then you don't have to identify with that. And this is how all these ideas that we see, Yama Niyamas will try to give us this idea that you can leave the Visheshanas outside, Upadhis outside, and we become Avishesha Matra. So therefore, and this can be possible only when you are completely immersed in the abhidhyana, abhidhyayita, and that's what is of this Om. Why this is like this? Because Omkara, it has both these components. One is the Aum, Visheshana component, and then the silence, which is Avisheshana component. Even Makara is also having that portion which is Avisheshana. So A, U have the Visheshana component and is a Visheshana component that is there and then taking us to silence. So therefore that Omkara also has these two aspects of it and that's why Omkara is something which is very important in the sense of manifest to unmanifest, Visheshana to Avisheshana. And as I said that subtle is the sound, gross is the object outside. Even in your mind also that object will top of gross object, but a subtle sound dialogue will stay with you. Just sit for meditation, you can see that. A real experience is that some dialogue or the other, feebly deep inside that's going on. Dialogue is the way that it stays. Even the idea that let me drop all the dialogues, even that's also a dialogue. So difficult to come out of it. So it stays in the form of a dialogue. And dialogue is the way that you establish relationship. And you still have the idea of manifested world and setting up the relationship that is there. So Omkara is one which is supposed to be the one which represents Param Brahma, Aparam Brahma. Both these things are there. Uh, Now, what happens is that this Omkara can also be. Now, what is there is that this is up to that, this is something which is intellectual. But there is one thing called as the Bhakti Bhava within us. So, once you take the Bhakti Bhava aspect of it, then we will see that we have all these various gods and goddesses, all these paraphernalia that are there within us, and then we live in that, and then they will take us to that Advaita Sthiti or the Aparam Brahma, and that it can, these things are essentially to see that how they can be taken to the deep inside the unmanifest Brahman, Param Brahman. That's what is the idea. Now, Saha Yadyapi Omkarasya, now let's go to the next sutra. This is what is the third sutra, where he says, Yate Ekamatram Avidhyayita Satenaiva Samvititaha Urnameva Jagat Jagatyam Abhisampadyate Tamrucho Manushaloka Upanayante Satatra Tapasa Brahmacharyena Shraddhaya Sampanno Mahimanam Anubhavati. Here he says that Mahimanam Anubhavati, he has an experience of something which is extraordinary. And what is the kind of it? Ekamatram avidhyayita satenaiva samvedayat. Now we see that there are four matras or three matras, and this akara is the prathama matra, u is the dvitiya matra, and is the tritiya matra. So when somebody says, when he says that he takes up only one matra, then ekaika matram avidhyayita sateva संवेदितः स्थूर्णमेव जगत्काम अभिसंपद्यते तमृच्यो मनुष्यलोकम उपनयन्ते न तत्र तपसा ब्रह्मचर्येण श्रद्धया संपन्नो महिमानम अनुभवति. Now let us try to understand this. Though all these three matras that are there, when somebody holds on to the first matra, a matra, that is the first matra, and that's supposed to be Jagrata Sthana, wakeful state, according to Mandukya Upanishad. And here in this in this Prasnopanishad, when he says Om, also he talks about this Om. And this Akara is something which is the Pradhama Matra, the first Matra. When you completely absorb yourself in that, this is what is called as Abhidhyana. When you are completely Abhidhyana, is the way that when you get involved in that, what is the purpose of this Abhidhyana? Is that which will take you to go beyond, which will make you to understand what will help you to go beyond. So, what is the prabhava? What is the influence of this? So that you feel that in this world that you are there, but at the same time that you are somebody who is extraordinary in this world, who become rich in this world. That's what he says, that Mahimanam Mahimanam Anubhavati. Anubhavam. So that means to say, you feel the blessedness of this particular world. In what way that you find out? Tunameva Jagatyam Abhisajyate Tamrityo Manushaloke Upanayante Natatra Tapasa Brahmacharyena Shraddhya Sampanno Mahimanam Anubhavati. These are the three things that he says. One is called as Tapasa, Brahmacharyena, and Shraddhaya. All these three things are the ones which are born out of this abhidhyana. So in this world, when you're looking at this world, when the moment that you are doing the dhyana, abhidhyana, that means to say these are the three important things. One is the tapas, shraddha, and third is the brahmacharya. That means any activity that you do it is nothing but the manifestation of the highest order that is there, and in that you are involved. There's one way that you can involve in this world, it is purely, absolutely for selfish nature. for selfish ends, selfish need, and that's what you look into. There is nothing like other than you. There is nothing like. This is what is even Sarvasara Upanishad also says. There are two ways that you can live in this world. One way you live in this world is that you can keep yourself at the center of this world, universe, and the universe will be around you. There's one way that you can look at it. Now the universe is around you, and universe is meant for you. So you always look at the universe, what's there for me? Some people ask this question also that. So when I you go and meet him, so what is there for me? So that means I am the center of universe and everything has to subserve me. The teachers have to subserve me, the doctor has to subserve me, anybody has to do anything for me. In fact, some religious beliefs even say that God has created all these various elements are also to subserve human being. So you are the center of the universe. The sun god and the wind and all those things, they are there to subserve you. In fact, the other day that when Mauli was saying that when say sun salutation, he said we don't accept the sun salutation because Allah has created the sun as our servant. So how can I bow in front of my servant? I can't do that. And that's what is the reality that you see. That sun every day rises to see that he will give you light. You are the center of the universe. So the whole thing is for you at the center, and the universe is around you. Everything else has to subserve you. For that, this world is there, including God. God is supposed to take care of you, your needs, your way He has to function. Government has to function your way. You are always there to advise the government. You always expect something to do happen to you. So this is what most of the people are. They don't realize that that's what is the self-centered universe that they create. The second thing is God-centered universe. That means God is at the center, and the whole universe is at the periphery. So God wanted the way that the world is. So you have no demand on this world. And you also feel that God wanted me to be what I am, so I am. So you keep away from that center. This is much more healthier. But in both the cases, what happens is that you are just accepted yourself the way that you are living. There's no further development, there's no growth. It's just only intellectual acceptance that you have. And you feel nice. Okay, sampanmulam mahimanam anubhavati. Yes, you feel that you are fortunate. You are in this world. You are fortunate that God has provided you the food. You're fortunate that everything is there for you. So this way that you have experience of that sampan abhimanam. So this is one way that you look at it. But then what happens is that because that you are doing brahmacharya, shraddha, and then tapasa, tapas, that means you are going through actually the effort of growing, developing. Like the way that a stone can be there, which without going through any samskara, it can be on the street and then people walk on that. Whereas the same stone, it goes through samskara, that means the chisel, this, that, and all that thing. It can become like nice, wonderful statue, and then people come around that statue, adore the statue, and they bow down in front of the statue if it is a god statue. So all that thing is created because that it has gone through that tapas. One who has that kind of a tapas within himself, and then shraddha, and then brahmacharya. That means to say, it is something which is shraddhaya, brahmacharyena tapasa. It's all God's. Even this God has provided this ability to take these tapas so that the development takes place. That's what is the idea of brahmacharya. When you follow that, he is the person that he will go to the higher, he will go to the benefits of this world. Sampanna. That means they proves the what we call it as that good virtues, and then he lives in a good way, better way, and that's what we say that Swargaloka. Sargalokanas is not anywhere else. It's here itself. Then he enjoys the fruits of whatever that he has done. One who does not take up these things is supposed to be yoga bhrashtaha kadachitapi nadargutim gachati. So, one who has yoga bhrashta, one who has not followed these things, one who follows the Shraddha, these things, and also even for that, Yoga Bhrashta, Kadachit, Yoga Bhrashta Kadachit api na Durgatim Gachati. He doesn't even go to the Durgati once who has followed these things. So that's why in this world, one who follows these disciplines that are there in the form of Yama Niyama, he is a person who doesn't even go to the Durgati, even though that he does not adhere to the yoga. So that's the first level, he says, at the level of first syllable, aum, and that's what is first. He says, ekamatra, sad ekamatram abhidhyayita. When his first matra, he does the abhidhyana, and he is the person who gets into that. So let's see that abhidhyana of the abhidhyana means that shraddha and devotion for that, and also that totally dedicated for that with the help of Yamanimas and all that, and then takes the Jagrata Sthana, wakeful world, seriously and works in that. This is what all the scientists, all these preachers, that they are all doing it, and they've got a good world. And actually, many times what happens is one who follows these things, naturally, this Shraddha, Brahmacharya, and all those things naturally happens in them. You don't have to put any effort on that. So this is what is the Ekamatra. Then the second sutra says in the fourth sutras, Athayati Dvimatrena Manasis Sampadyate. So Antariksham. Dvimatrena. What is that? Akara and Ukara. A and U. A is the Jagrata Sthana, U is the Swapna Sthana. So when these two matras, when somebody has done Manasihi Sampadyate, when he has done the Abhidhyana, in then when he does this Manasihi Sampadyate, now what happens is that the wakeful state of the world outside and the dream state, both these things they have influence on this mind, Manasihi. Wakeful state has an influence on the mind of everybody, and the dream state is individual. As I said earlier, that dream is something which is very individual, personal. It's not the samishti, everybody's experience, but it has its own experience on you, influence on you. So sampadyate shun antariksham yajurbihi durniyate somalokam. So now what happens is that the first one, when he is talking about it, he says that Jagatyam Itasampadyate tad rucho Manushyalokam Uparayante na tatra tapasa brahmacharyena shraddhaya. Ruchaha, he talks about Rigveda. So in the first, when only the first matra is there, that's what is Ruchaha. And then when you come to the Dvita Dvimatrena Yajurbihi, Yajurveda, Niyate Somalokam. He talks about the Somalaka. What is the Somalakam? Why he connected with the Yajuhu? We'll see that next week when we join. And further he says that Trimatrena, when you go to three, and then he goes to Brahmaloka. So therefore, that in this particular fifth Prashna, it's extraordinarily interesting, beautiful about various lokas that he gives us the introduction about deeper and deeper levels. So let's see how he manages that Upanishad Rishi here. That's what is Pipalada. We'll stop it here. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.